She's an Emmy-winning journalist from the White House to war zones, telling all sides of the story. This is The Rita Cosby Show.
And tonight on The Rita Cosby Show, a big blow to the Biden administration as they lose a battle in court with a federal judge in Louisiana just a few hours ago, temporarily blocking the Biden administration from ending a Trump-era pandemic restriction that was on the U.S.-Mexico border known as Title 42. Take a listen. Here is Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, commenting after the news came down.
The Department of Homeland Security has projected that there could be an increase in people coming to the border, and that's why they've had a six-part, multi-part plan and proposal and policy they've been implementing for months now to prepare for that.
Well, it doesn't seem like they had very much of a plan at all. And in fact, many Democrats were also deeply upset that Title 42 is about to be lifted. This comes as we have seen historic numbers at our U.S. border and, of course, the border with Mexico. We just had reports recently of terrorists who got through, people that were on the terrorist watch list. You know that those are bad folks. We've seen skyrocketing fentanyl numbers. And now a federal judge has stepped in and at least putting a temporary block on the administration's plans to lift Title 42. You know what is so wild is that this comes at a time where the mask mandate, they were pushing to have that in place, saying on mass transit, on airplanes, and on trains and other locations. Well, in those cases, guess what? They believe there should be basically a mandate in place, that there's such a huge health issue. And they believe with COVID spreading and potential other issues, well, they're pushing hard on the mask mandate to stay in place. So wait a minute. Title 42 at the border. In other words, you don't need a health restriction whatsoever on our U.S. southern border with people who have been traveling for weeks, if not months, to get to America, many of them sleeping in very difficult, squalid conditions, very treacherous conditions to try to make it to America, some of them living under bridges, and just you can imagine the kind of conditions they're in. But there's no health issue there. I mean, just the double standard was so blaring that now a federal judge, at least short term, has issued this block. And in just 1 minute or so, we're going to have the great former ICE director, Tom Homan, join us here on The Rita Cosby Show to give us his take to this big news that has come down, that yet another blow to the Biden administration, because they also had a blow regarding the Remain in Mexico policy. The Supreme Court was going to hear and will be hearing issues on this case. That's going to be a fascinating one. This is a huge week for border security and the safety, I believe, of our country. Well, take a listen. This is Governor Greg Abbott of Texas talking about how dangerous it is if Title 42 was going to be lifted. And by the way, this is just a temporary hold by the judge, but still obviously an important sign that the judge is seeing a double standard. But that is still scheduled at this point, barring the judge's issue basically staying in place. Remember, again, it's temporary, so it could delay it. It could be a permanent block, which could also be an issue too as well. We'll see where it goes. But right now, prior to this ruling, Title 42 was supposed to be lifted on May 23rd. And Governor Abbott was very, very worried.
No one knows what Biden is trying to do by this, but what we all know is if he lifts Title 42, it will be catastrophic for the United States of America, because look only at what his own Department of Homeland Security has stated, and that is to expect, with the lifting of Title 42, about 18,000 people coming across the border per day.
And here's a little bit more from Governor Abbott about what could happen when Title 42, or if it is now, going to be lifted.
It means that more than 6 million people will be coming across the border a year, and about half of those would be in the state of Texas. That we would have coming across the border in 1 year more people than are residents of our largest city in Texas, which is Houston. We would be adding more than one Houston a year. There's no way the state of Texas can assimilate those people, and there's no way the United States can assimilate that number of people. And so what Joe Biden is doing is far more than reckless. It's the most disastrous thing to the United States of America anybody's ever witnessed in our lifetime.
And again, big breaking news that now a federal judge has temporarily blocked the administration from lifting the border restrictions. And joining us now here live on the show is Tom Homan, former acting ICE Director, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement Director. Tom Homan, great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
You know, what's your reaction to this big news? This is big, Tom, that a federal judge has at least temporarily blocked the administration from lifting this health pandemic restriction that, you know, you and I have talked before was ridiculous that it was being lifted. What's your reaction? At least this is good news.
Yeah, I think it's good news because it's going to give the Border Patrol some relief because they need it. Look, the Border Patrol is already overwhelmed. Even with Title 42 in place, they're on a glide path right now to beat last year's numbers, and last year's numbers were historic high, the highest we've ever seen. And right now, even with Title 42, you look at that 2.5 million, you know, when last year was 1.7, 1.9. So they're going to beat last year's number by 500,000 people. And you can tell the Border Patrol is overwhelmed because 60, I used to say 40 to 50, but now they're up to 60. 60% of Border Patrol agents are no longer on the line. They're in facilities processing people. What does that mean? That means more gotaways. What does that mean? Record amount of fentanyl coming across the border, over 116,000 overdose deaths now because the border's wide open because half the Border Patrol's not there. But the biggest concern to me is last month they reported 67,000 known gotaways. That doesn't count the number of aliens that enter the country that didn't trip a camera or trip a sensor. 67,000 known gotaways. Now, they just announced they've arrested 42 known as people off the terrorist watch list, 42 of them. So terrorists don't want to get arrested, right? They're trained how to, not to be caught by law enforcement. So if there's 67,000 people that crossed the border that weren't fingerprinted, weren't arrested, no biographical information, no background checks, no vetting, how many of that 67,000 might be in that screening database? That's just scare the hell out of everybody. And on top of 67, since Joe Biden became president, there's been over 700,000 gotaways. No gotaways. Not Tom Homan's numbers, CBP's numbers. 700,000 gotaways. And if you don't think one of those gotaways, at least one, didn't come from the country that sponsored terrorism, then you're ignorant. Look, they've arrested people from 57 different countries, some of them that sponsor terrorism. So again, I'll put out any left-leaning open borders advocate out of 700,000, the rest from 57 countries. Do you really think not one of them came from a country sponsoring terrorism that came here to do us harm? Because if you think that, then you're ignorant. You're ignoring the factual data.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that is a staggering number, 700,000 known gotaways since President Biden took office. I want to ask your reaction because you have been there on the front lines, Tom. You know it so well, the border, and which is why I always so love having you on. Our audience loves you and loves to hear your perspective because it's so spot on and it's so important. I, for the life of me, Tom, cannot understand how at the same time, and literally it's like within the same week, where they were pushing for the mask mandate on mass transit in America, saying, COVID and health issues, they're still a big concern. We got to be careful, telling people, to mask up and push for that mandate. When the judge lifted that, they were upset about it and they're appealing it. The DOJ is going to appeal it, claiming CDC health reasons. And yet at the border, they're wanting to eagerly push to get Title 42 lifted, which was a health restriction. How do you reconcile this, Tom?
You can't reconcile it, but Title 42 was spoiling their open borders plan. So Joe Biden's going to listen to the progressive left. They help get him elected. They want open borders. They want Title 42 to go away. I said from day one, Joe Biden knew exactly what he's doing during the campaign, making all his promises, end ICE detention, going to have amnesty, going to give free health care. We're going to put a moratorium on deportation. We're going to abolish ICE. And they pretty much did abolish ICE. Their mission has been abolished. But they knew they were going to drive a surge to satisfy the progressive left open borders advocate. So the Title 42 was in the way. From getting full open borders, so they're willing to throw it out. And again, it just doesn't make sense why they would go from the most secure border of my career to President Trump and go to an historic illegal immigration within a year. And the reason it is because these people are going to, millions of people are becoming the United States who they're Democrats, and the open borders people actually think are future Democratic voters. They're importing voters, and even if they don't vote, they're still going to be counted in the census, which is going to result in more seats in the House for the Democrats. So this is Title 42 is in their way. They have shown over and over again they're not making a single move, not done one thing to slow the flow. Every time the secretary talks, he just throws out another magnet saying, "Well, ICE can't arrest you if you're just here illegally. We're not going to arrest you. ICE can no longer do work site enforcement operations. You don't even have to see a judge to claim asylum now. We're going to let a CIS employee do it on the border. We're not going to detain people. We're going to release them with a telephone." You keep hearing everything he says drives more immigration. It's a pull factor. So Secretary of Homeland Security, rather than doing one thing to slow the flow, he just keeps throwing out more magnets. Now, and let me say this one more thing. Title 42. The secretary said the other day, well, if CDC stops, I can't control the CDC. It's a different department. They don't work for me. However, Remain in Mexico is under his purview. He's been sued. I was a part of that lawsuit. He was sued to reinstate the Remain in Mexico program, and he hasn't done it. He's done it with baby steps. Like last month, I think they removed 212 people to the Remain in Mexico. We removed 212 a minute under President Trump. So he's purposely slow rolling Remain in Mexico. If he really wants to secure the border when they lift Title 42, then put the Remain in Mexico program back in. Just dust off the Trump plans. It works. It was a game changer. But then again, he doesn't want to secure the border.
You hit a great point, Tom, because he was ordered by the court to actually do that Remain in Mexico. And yet they have been defying the court order. Like you just said, it's around 200 that they actually have, quote, kept in Mexico. At what point is a judge going to say, enough? Judges don't like to have their orders defied.
I'm begging the court. I've been saying on the network news, a judge needs to call him in, order him contempt of court. Look, he's supposed to be the Secretary of Homeland Security. First of all, if the man had any integrity, Secretary of Homeland Security, he has the same data you and I have. He knows that 42 people on the screening database were arrested at our borders. He knows there's 700,000 gotaways. If he had an ounce of integrity, he would call the White House and say, I can no longer support open borders because it's a huge national security issue. Something's going to happen devastating in this country. 9/11, we created a database. You can't get a plane ticket come to this country. You can't get a visa come to this country unless you get vetted through numerous databases, including DOD databases. We did that. We created a visa security program. We started the no-fly list. We created a DOD intel database. You can't get in this country with a ticket or a visa. However, those things mean nothing right now because you're a terrorist. Why would you go through a risk of going through all these databases and being found when you can simply cross the southwest border the same way 67,000 did last month and not get arrested? So the Secretary of Homeland Security, he needs to be impeached. What he's done is almost treasonous. And this homeland is less secure under his leadership. Every month he's been in office, the numbers keep climbing. 221,000 last month, the highest under Biden administration, the highest in over 25 years, quarter of a century. He has failed at this job. He needs to be impeached. He needs to be removed.
Tom Homan, before I let you go, too, because I want to ask you about the amount of deaths. You brought up an interesting point, too, that more people have died also regarding crossing the border, trying to get into U.S. soil under Biden, right, than under Trump when you were there.
Absolutely. They keep saying Trump's policy is inhumane. I say Biden's policy are much more inhumane. Why? Because a record number of migrants have died on U.S. soil since Joe Biden's become president. They broke records. Just short of 700 migrants have died on our soil, either drowned in a river or abandoned in the desert or just simply killed by the smugglers because they couldn't pay their fees. So almost 700 dead migrants, which is a record. And on top of that, over 100,000 fentanyl deaths because fentanyl is coming across the border. DEA says 95% of fentanyl comes across the open southwest border. And they made a statement 2 weeks ago saying they're going to see an epidemic of huge proportions this year if we don't secure the border. Joe Biden's policies has caused more deaths than President Trump's policy. And I'll say one more thing. When Trump had the border down to a 40-year low, when we had illegal immigration on 83%. How many women didn't get raped? How many children didn't die? How many migrants didn't die? How many pounds of fentanyl didn't come to this country to kill our young folks? How many billions of dollars did the cartels not make? President Trump's policies saved lives. That's just a stone cold fact.
Yeah, and for some reason, this administration, everything that is Trump, they don't want to touch, even if they were extremely successful. Just as you talk about, and it is terrible because I agree with you, Tom. It's putting our country at risk in a big, big way. Tom Homan, we love having you on, the former ICE director. Thank you so much for joining us, Tom.